You're listening to the Telltale channel. Don't forget to check me out on all social media: Patreon, Twitter, Teespring, and Etsy. All links can be found in the description or on my website, telltaleatheist.com. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming. As you can see by the title and the thumbnail, we're going to be talking about televangelists losing their minds over the recent 2022 midterm elections. Now, if this is the first you're hearing of it or you're unfamiliar with the situation, let me give you a basic bottom line explanation of what's going on. Televangelists, or let me rephrase, Republicans in general, in fact, everybody expected a red wave. They all expected Republicans to run away with it in the recent election, because it's usually what happens when there's a Democrat in power during the midterm elections. In their first term, the Republicans take it away. Same with Republicans being in power. Trump's first midterm election as president, Democrats took the House and the Senate. That's typically how it works. But that's not what happened, interestingly enough. Republicans, by and large, stayed pretty much exactly the same as they were before. They won a few House seats, and they lost a Senate seat. And it was absolutely unexpected. The polls were reasonably accurate, but were indicating that there was likely to be a Republican takeover of everything. So it did take a lot of us by surprise. Well, televangelists are losing their minds over this right now. So I wanted to listen to their reaction to it. Now, I've covered a couple of clips from these guys from election night and the night after that. But this one is after a little bit of time had passed. People had had some time to stew on it and talk about it and think things through. At this point in time, I believe the New York Post and a bunch of other right-wing outlets started talking about the fact that Donald Trump is no longer anywhere near as powerful as he was before. The interesting thing about this is that these televangelists have tied themselves to Donald Trump. They've linked themselves inextricably. So the fact that Trump is losing power, I'm saying these guys have claimed him to be a messiah. I'm not being hyperbolic. They've used those words. So the fact that Trump is the weakest he's been in 6 years and a lot of the Republican Party is turning on him leads to interesting outcomes. It leads to interesting commentary from people like this guy, which is Hank Kunneman. He's friends with Kenneth Copeland. So I'll tell you what, why don't we talk about this video, and we'll watch some of it now that I've given you a basic rundown of the situation. Wait, there was one more thing I wanted to mention. This is a TV show called Flashpoint. It's on the Victory Network, owned and operated by Kenneth Copeland. And Gene Bailey, this guy right here, he's the host of the TV show called Flashpoint, okay? He gets guests on all the time, like Hank Kunneman. Hang on. Wait. Where's Hank?
100,000.
This fine-looking gentleman right here. This is Hank Kunneman. And they have David Barton on and a bunch of other really, really famous pastors. So anyway, without further ado, why don't we watch this, see what they have to say for themselves. And while we do, we're going to play some Super Mario World. This is generally what I do on my Telltale Unfiltered YouTube channel, by the by. If you guys want to go there and watch some of that, you know, we're not going to be able to finish this video tonight, but I will finish it tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. on my Unfiltered channel. So give that a look if you're interested. Okay, let's watch some of it, see what they have to say, shall we? Ugh, hang on, I just want to skip forward a little bit. There we go. So this is November 10th when this came out.
America Stands. I'm Gene Bailey, and you are watching Flashpoint, but we're on the America Stands set. Ladies and gentlemen, so many great things have been going on this week. I know you were expecting a bigger red wave, but we've got some good news for you tonight. You're going to see what's really been going on that you haven't been hearing much about.
What's really been going on? Okay, tell me.
We covered a little bit of that last night. We're going to cover more of it tonight, that you can be encouraged, because what you're seeing is God moving. Remember, the Constitution, the American Constitution, is built on the premise from the bottom up.
Okay, see, I noticed this the other day when they were on their Flashpoint show, being really weirdly optimistic when there was honestly no reason to be. They very obviously lost miserably. They performed terribly in the election. There's no reason for them to be happy right now. But I think that they've started to realize, I mean, these are like the hardest of the hardcore Trumpist extremists that we're watching right now. The reason I believe that they're being optimistic is because they don't want to discourage their viewers. They've had enough bad news already, so they're going to try to, I don't know, excite them, get them happy about whatever's happening. Let's keep listening, see what they say here.
So while we may not have seen some of these top races go the way we wanted, a whole lot of other races have been going the right way. So I'm telling you, stay with us. We're going to have a lot of good stuff to talk about. Stay encouraged, because you're going to see this. Now, if
honestly, the races didn't go the way that these specific people wanted at all. Like, not even a little bit. Yeah, Republicans took some seats, but you know who lost by and large? Election deniers and Trump supporters. Election deniers and Trump supporters failed miserably in the midterms. Almost all of the election deniers lost. I mean, there are still some election skeptics from 2020 that took House seats and stuff. But there was a clear message sent to the Republican Party, and that clear message was, we don't want Trump or Trump supporters in office. And that's exactly who these people are. That's what these people are all about. That's the whole bit here. So they lost unequivocally. I mean, these people lost. Republicans won. These people lost.
If you're not already sharing this program, I need you to go share it on all your social media right now. Go share that. Just share, post the link to this program. If you're on YouTube, after we're off the air, you won't be able to share it. So go post the YouTube link. Go post the Rumble link of this program, or you can always get the show at govictory.com/flashpoint. Follow us on Twitter. Follow us on Instagram at flashpoint.army. I'm trying to hit all this stuff that Kurt always tells me to do. And you just need to follow us. Follow the Victory channel so we can see what's happening. All right. Right now, I want to bring in live from Omaha, Nebraska, Pastor Hank Kuhneman. Pastor Hank, how are you? This is Election Day +2. How are you tonight?
This dude is a deep, deep extremist. Again, he's a Kenneth Copeland friend, supporter, fan. Works with him frequently. Deep, deep extremist, this guy.
Yay, I'm doing great. America's doing great. Jesus is on the throne. And Pastor
Your mom's doing great.
Gene, you are a machine. All these days that you've been doing this, I don't know, Flashpoint might be having to go every day. See, you're getting practice.
Yeah, that's right. We're doing great. Yeah. Well, I'd love to be able to go more nights. There's so much material. We could go 7 days a week. We're not, but we could.
Yeah.
We could do that.
Yeah,
but yes,
you're
right. So Pastor Hank, how are you feeling today with what's happened with the election 2 days later?
Well, again, you've got to go back to what God originally said before the moment. Sometimes
you ready for the justifications and the false prophecies? They're about to lay them down.
we only look at the moment, and when it doesn't look like it goes a certain way, we forget what God said ahead of time. And if you've been tracking, the Lord said very clearly, in fact, we shared the prophecy, I believe it was last night, that the Lord said October 30th, that this particular midterm election would go, it would be disputed, undisputed, refuted, there would be steel.
Oh, that's right. Okay, so Hank Kuhneman at his church in Omaha, Nebraska, did a prophecy, a full-blown prophecy about these midterm elections. And here's the prophecy. It's going to be disputed and refuted or something like that. So once again, you would think that these prophets would learn from 2020 that this is a bad idea, right? To prophesy about Jesus and blah, blah, blah. You would think they would learn from their mistakes. But no, here we are. Once again, these people are prophesying that the election is going to be disputed and then refuted, and it's going to be given to the Republicans by the end of it. How many false prophecies are they going to do before their people just walk away completely? Honestly, this is crazy.
Some people would say, here we go again. Some would hang their head in disappointment. But God said there would be victories and that He has taken this nation forward. And here's why I feel very, very good. God gave me a verse about 2023, and it just so happens to be Deuteronomy.
Oh, no. God gave him a verse about 2023 already? Okay.
6. Watch this, verse 23. Here's what it says. God brought the nation of Israel out. So God's bringing us out to bring us in, the scripture says, to give us the land that He promised. That's exactly what God is doing. Lastly, God has a principle that we find in the book of Hebrews when it talks about the covenants. It's this: He takes away the old to establish the new. The way He does it is by a process. Exodus 23:30, when Israel was to take their land, God said, look, there's giants in there, but it's going to be a process, little by little. And I'm telling you, no matter any which way you look at it, there was some very good, deep-seated people that are going to help turn this nation around, and it's only going to get better to take these giants out.
It's only going to get better to take these giants out. I'm not really sure exactly what he means by that, but it honestly sounds like complete nonsense to me.
That's right. And you know, I have to remember, and we've talked about this, you and I, Pastor Hank, you know, the difference between where we are today versus 2020, just how much more all of us even understand our government better, the way politics work, the way
That's true. A lot of these people do understand the government and how it operates and how, like, election systems work and stuff a lot better. And for some reason, bizarrely, they're still claiming election fraud. Like, when are they going to get over themselves, honestly?
Offices, who's responsible. I never knew a sheriff had quite as much power as he does now, as I do understand now. We've got in your Secretary of State and what they're over. We have all been educated for the last 2 years, so things are getting better. So be encouraged. Stay with this show this whole hour, especially if you've got any veterans in your home. We're going to honor them in the second part of the program.
When they say honor veterans, they mean they're going to, like, borderline worship the veterans. It's really weird and creepy how they do it.
Well, make sure you stick with us for that. There's some great stuff you're going to see. But right now, I know you're wanting to know what's the latest on the election and the election results. So let's go over to...
Yeah, so this is a few days old. They probably weren't aware at the time, but Carrie Lake, well, they certainly weren't aware at the time. Carrie Lake lost her election for governor of Arizona, which is absolutely fantastic news. We found that out recently. Really, really good.
David Barton and Chad Connolly. Hello, gentlemen.
I don't know Chad Connolly, but David Barton is a far-right extremist who has historically been very, very involved in the Christian nationalist movement. He's what I'm not 100% sure of this, but as far as I can tell, as far as I could track down, he is the guy that came up with the piece of propaganda that that separation of church and state isn't in the Constitution. Nonsense, of course. It's the First Amendment. I mean, it doesn't say the specific words separation of church and state. It's a reference to the concept of the First Amendment. That's what those words mean. But anyway, he came up with it. So he's a pretty heavy hitter in this movement and has been since at least the 90s.
Glad you're here, Chad. You look nice.
Very good to see you, brother.
Like you've slept.
Hey, bro.
Okay, so, you know, as we're getting going here, David, take us through with the Senate. Let's start with the Senate. Where are we?
The Senate, what happens is, and let's go to the Senate first. On the Senate side, the Republicans have 49, Democrats have 48. There's still 3 undecided out there.
Yeah, now Democrats have 50. And Georgia is a runoff.
Republicans, if they have 50, it'll be status quo the way it was. If they get 51, then things change in the Senate. Now, to be real frank, set expectations. If Republicans get the House and the Senate, nothing changes except they stop the bad stuff. They cannot pass anything. All they can do is start stopping some of the bad stuff. So,
as if, like, Democrats have passed anything anyways. They can't pass anything because to pass a law, it has to have a majority in the House to vote on it, and then they have to have a supermajority in the Senate. It's called the filibuster. They have to have 60 votes in the Senate. Or maybe it's not supermajority. I think a supermajority is 66 votes. Well, anyways, Democrats wouldn't be able to pass anything anyways, regardless of whether or not they had the House. It's just complete nonsense what he's saying here, but okay. He's just trying to scare people.
If expectations are Republicans get the House and Senate, why didn't things change?
Right.
That's not the process, not the way it works.
Right.
So the three that are out there, the runoff now is Georgia. 4 weeks from now, thereabouts, you'll have a runoff with
Hang on. Can you turn the air off because it's short cycling? Thanks. Anyway, all right, let's continue.
Warnock and Herschel in Georgia. And so that one may or may not be important. These are the two right now. Nevada, Laxalt in Nevada is up at this point by 16,000 votes, but there's 50,000 left to count.
Yeah, Nevada went to the Democrat eventually, we found out, which is fantastic news. Republican took the governorship. Democrats took the Senate in Nevada. So
Wow.
So he's been down most of the race. He's now up on top. Will he stay on top? Will he come down? We'll see. The other is Arizona. As of this morning, there's about 500,000 votes left to count. Carrie Lake says that, for example, in her case, those votes are breaking overwhelmingly, sometimes up to 80% in Republican direction.
no, at no point in time did they break 80% in the Republican direction. There was no district that did that. Some districts broke 57% from my knowledge. This dude's just making this up completely, which is kind of par for the course with David Barton. That's not unexpected.
You wonder, is there any reasoning why that would be that way?
Yeah, they're counting. They say that the early votes in Arizona go Republican, heavily Republican. And so that's what they're counting now, is those early votes. And counting them now.
Early votes do not go heavily Republican. What? No to all of this. It's just completely made up. Early votes and mail-in ballots go heavily Democrat. In-person day of votes go heavily Republican. They're just making this up entirely. Like, even basic facts they cannot be trusted on. This blows me away, dude.
If they're heavily Republican, they're breaking 4. If they counted the live night of stuff, like out of Phoenix, out of Tucson, that's going to be much more blue. So it's breaking now with that early voting. And if that's the case, Kerry thinks that Blake Masters, even though he's 5 points down now, he may actually win the Senate race there.
Nope, he lost. I love it. I'm just eating this up.
So if you get 1 or 2, that 50 would put, if they get 1, that puts it back to status quo. If they get another one, now they got the majority, and this is not as significant. If they get 1 over there, they've got to get this one to get the majority. If they lose both of these, they've got to get this one in Georgia just to be status quo.
So as I said, Republicans lost pretty much everything that they're saying here. Now, I'm really not even a Democrat, honestly. I am just I'm just not for psychotic, unhinged, crazy people being in political power. That's all. I just don't want that. Unfortunately, that means voting with the Democrats most of the time, even though the Democrats have their share of crazies too. It is not even close to the kind of thing you see with Republicans, like not even close.
Right. So, all right, so we talk about Herschel Walker and Warnock. You know, they're going to a runoff. It's only like 30 days, so it's first week of December.
First week of December, that's right.
First week of December, runoff, and then that will determine. Now, the interesting thing about that race is there was that Libertarian candidate that was running there, so I think he took like 80,000 votes. I don't remember exactly, but he took a big chunk of votes. So now we're really going to be seeing what's going to happen. So you guys got to vote. Georgia, come on, home team. You guys got to get ready to go vote.
They desperately, desperately want that Senate seat in Georgia. They're just not going to get it. I'm sorry, guys. It's not going to happen. I'm sorry. You're just not going to get a majority. It's not going to happen. It's too late. That's what I meant to say. They may get the Georgia seat, but it's not going to solve your problems. You're not getting a majority in the Senate. And even if they did get a majority in the Senate, it's very unlikely that they would even be able to do anything because the president has veto power, which means Biden would have the ability to overrule any law that they wanted to push through unless they could override the veto, which I think the veto power it requires somewhere around 66 or 70 votes or something. I don't even remember. 2/3 majority, I think. So 66, I guess.
And I think they're doing early voting in Georgia as well,
Yep.
so that's going to start really soon
And this
as well.
is one where we saw 2 years ago there were 2 runoffs the same way, and the turnout for the runoff was much depressed vote, much lower, 200,000 lower votes. So our guys have to make sure they get out. This is going to be right after Thanksgiving. People aren't thinking of politics after Thanksgiving.
Yeah, but these people, like the people on screen here, David Barton and Gene Bailey and the others, they've made voting a religious mandate. They are Christian nationalists. They are extremists to the core, and it's deeply disturbing stuff. This is a requirement if you want to be in God's good graces or whatever. You are required in their mind to vote. It's just not good, man. Not good.
Although I guarantee you, the airwaves in Georgia from now to that election are going to be nothing but campaign ads.
Yeah, you might
both
not want to
sides.
turn on your TV.
You vote early and leave the
mainstream
state so
media.
you can have a little peace for a while, but definitely vote.
Right.
Make sure you get out.
All right, so I ask you your opinion. You think Laxalt will pull out in Nevada?
I think so, but people on the ground in Nevada don't think so. So
That's really weird. I thought I already got the key. Didn't I already get the key? Maybe I took the other exit. Yeah, I must have taken the original exit. Okay. Let's keep going. Oh, let me take a look at Super Chats real quick. When a Muslim calls an atheist delusional while conservative Christians say they're delusional, ever want try to review the God's Not Dead movies? That could be interesting, reviewing the God's Not Dead movies, but I worry about DMCA, basically. That's one of my bigger concerns with it. I wouldn't want to get DMCA'd and go through that whole stupid process and then they'd probably try to sue me, and it's just a mess. Although it should be done, so I don't know. Maybe I should be the one to do it. I've been seeing a girl who's into nonsense like healing crystals and chakras. I want to get her an advent calendar that has different healing crystals for each day. I know she'd like it, but I'm afraid of legitimizing this nonsense. Yeah, it's your thing. I wouldn't judge you, of course, but I definitely would not legitimize it personally if it were me. Yeah, not really, not great. And if it were me, I would probably slowly, carefully, gradually kind of ask her questions to try to poke little holes in it casually without upsetting her or anything, of course. Just, casually just kind of point stuff out every now and then, be like, hey, isn't it weird that, these star signs or these horoscopes or whatever could apply to anything or anybody at any time, or that kind of thing. I don't know if she's into horoscopes. I was just using it as an example. But anyway, thanks for the super chat. I appreciate that. That is awesome. All right, let's keep listening to these guys.
It's that close.
Wow.
It's that close. We'll see.
Oh yeah, and let me step back a little bit. I wanted to hear what he said here. 8:13. All right, let's go here.
All right, so I ask you your opinion. You think Laxalt will pull out in Nevada?
He did not. He failed.
I think so, but people on the ground in Nevada don't think so. So it's that close.
Wow.
It's that close. We'll see. I think there's a good chance he pulls out in Nevada. Depends on where those votes come from. We heard this afternoon that some of those votes are still out of Clark County. That's Las Vegas. We thought that was already counted. If there are still votes coming out of Clark County, Las Vegas, they tend to be much more blue than the rest of the state.
Right.
You know what I find interesting? I find it so fascinating that these people are legitimizing the election and the results inherently by having these conversations, right? They're going through here and talking about the votes that went through and what's left to count and all that other stuff. When they spend their free time or even their work time screaming about the vote being stolen, about people lying and cheating and Dominion voting systems and Hugo Chavez and all that other garbage. This is like a constant thing for these people, a nonstop diatribe that they're on. And weirdly, they seem to be trusting the vote here. They understand how this works fully. I don't believe for a second that they actually think the 2020 election was stolen. Not for a second.
If the votes are coming in from rural areas, I think Laxalt gets it.
All right, so there is your prayer target when we look at
Prayer target. I thought they've been praying for 2 years straight at this point. What happened? If they've been praying for 2 years straight, shouldn't this have been a red wave? Maybe this should be taken as a sign that God is not pleased with what you've been doing. You ever consider that one? You aren't getting what you want because maybe God's kind of pissed off at you. That doesn't even cross their mind. You know the answer they go with? The explanation they go with, rather than God is pissed off at you, is God is not actually all-powerful. Apparently, he's not powerful enough to be capable of changing election results. That is the answer that they go with, rather than God does not believe the same way you do. It just blows me away, their mindset here. Try doing still photos while reviewing the movies. Yeah, I could do that. I could consider it.
Senate. Remember, Georgia, Arizona, Nevada, we need to pray the right votes, get all the correct votes, legal votes, get counted in a timely manner. And those of you in Georgia, vote. Make sure you vote and get your vote in for that runoff. All right, so let's go to the House.
Yeah, another thing when it comes time to do the election stuff, or when they're trying to get their people to vote, they usually stop talking about voter fraud for the most part because they realize that it depresses the vote. It makes their voters less likely to whatever. It makes them less likely to go out and actually vote because they think that it's a lost cause. They think, why am I even voting? There's no point here because they're just going to steal my vote anyways. So they'll say, if they do mention election fraud, then they'll also repeat the same BS over and over again. If you get out in high enough numbers, it'll override the algorithm, whatever the hell that means. It'll override the algorithm. So now that the election's over, it seems like their strategy is to be generally positive about things and say they really won when they absolutely did not. And they're going to talk about voter fraud all over again.
Yeah, Gene, thanks for having me. And lots to unpack here because a lot of things happen in the U.S. House. And of course,
yeah, we know. We already generally know. So I'm going to skip forward a little bit and see what else they have to say because we got the results.
Governor's races that are still outstanding at this point.
All right, so that's a really quick recap of where we're at. So you can see there's good news out there, so don't freak out.
See, I told you, they're trying to be positive because they don't want people to get discouraged, basically. And they know if they're constantly fear-mongering, which is, a staple of their program, their TV show and their whole brand, honestly. That's what they're all about. If they know if they're really, really negative 24/7, people will be a lot less likely to vote or to tune in anymore. You got to have some jokes in there sometimes, I guess, and some positivity. So
Take a deep breath, America, is what I said before. So we're going to take a deep breath, keep your faith engaged, and we're going to see God turn this. I'm telling you, it's going to end up good.
Why involve faith in this at all, honestly? Like, isn't this a losing, like, battle for them or whatever? Why do they continue to prophesy that God is blah, 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 whatever else? It just blows me away that they actually take a risk like this. Like, they know they're going to be wrong, but they continue to claim that God is going to come in and fix everything for them. I don't get it, honestly. I really don't. Shit. This is a really, really hard part, but I want to get it. Interesting point. Libertarianism in the U.S. is not the same thing as the rest of the world. It's a more left-wing thing outside the U.S. Really? That is interesting. Thank you so much for that fun fact. That fact was quite fun. I did not know.
Well, we're on the set of America Stands. A lot of people were here the other night. We wanted to come back up here because of what we're talking about. But most of all, because this is what you're talking about. We have had record numbers watching America Stands on election night. Thank you for watching. Thank you for sharing this with your friends at the Victory Channel. We put a lot into this every 2 years, as well as the primaries in between. So thank you for watching. Overwhelming response.
Okay, quit putting a puff in your in your audience's petticoat here. Just get to it.
Positive as we covered America on election night. All right. If you didn't see us on election night, watch this quick recap of what you missed. Watch. Welcome, everyone, to America Stands. This is the moment we've been waiting for ever since 2020, November 4th. You and I were looking forward to this day.
I believe in this election tonight, we will see that the people are not only expressing a...
Hey, that's Kenneth Copeland's daughter, Terry Copeland Pearsons. She is... I covered her the other day, actually, on my main channel. You guys probably seen it. It's one of my... it is my best performing video of all time, actually. It's just absolutely exploding at this immediate moment. I mean, I have videos with more views on them. I think I've reached 1.2 million views on a couple of my videos, 4 or 5 of them. But, yeah, this one is, like, exploding at the moment. So, anyway, yeah, Terry Pearsons. Interesting.
Vote just because we want better gas prices, but because we want to stop to the curse. And I believe that we've seen in the last 2 years such a move of people saying, and I want him.
What we say with our mouths, what we believe in our hearts, what we confess and what we do in the next few hours will be vitally important as we watch these races and these counts.
There's so many eyes on the elections right now. The number of election laws that were passed, people are on the ground, there's poll watchers. We were in Arizona last week. There are churches turning out.
Yeah, David Barton, you cannot convince me David Barton, of all people, guy speaking right now, is not aware that there was no systemic voter fraud in 2020. You cannot convince me of it. He knows how this works on a granular level. You cannot understand how this works and simultaneously believe that there is systemic voter fraud.
Poll watchers to put it polling places. There's a lot more eyes on this. It doesn't have the feel of 2 years ago.
What is God doing? I'll tell you what God is doing. He has been building a people in stamina and strength.
Oh, dude, Lance Walnut is absolutely terrible in every way.
And engagement. So God is putting us in this fight. Now look at that. We're winning. But we're winning because we're more engaged than we were last time.
That's right.
And if we keep staying engaged, we're going to win more and more.
We are, as believers, emboldened, empowered, and standing on our authority in the Word of God. This election will not be stolen.
No.
Corruption, you bow your knee. Your
God, I covered that clip on my recent video, too.
name to the name of Jesus, and we thank you and praise you and honor you for the victory this night for the United States of America.
This is not the time for the United States to fail.
Yes, exactly.
God is not through with this country.
No.
The time has come for change. This election is crucial. This country's stirred up.
They are.
And we're going to take this thing.
And we're going to take this thing. And look how that turned out, right?
Amen. We are going to take this thing. Welcome back to Flashpoint. As you can see, I magically have chairs here and guests. And of course, you've already seen David Barton and Chad Connolly, but Pastor Che-Ahn, thank you, sir, for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
You're usually in a little box on the monitor.
Yes, yes, I was on Tuesday night.
Yeah, it's great.
I don't know this guy. Never heard of him.
Great.
My hotel room, actually, to be honest with you. Yes.
It was great having you here. All right, so I want to show you this before we start talking about what's happening. Look at this tweet. This one is this is too good. This is why we have so much stuff to talk about. This is of DeLuca. If you've got that, guys, he was elected posthumously. I can't read it from the monitor that far away, but he won the election and he died several months ago. So
crazy.
Okay, I have no idea what they're talking about. There are no examples of somebody taking office despite having died or whatever other thing. There are procedures for people who were running in an election and then died. That is a situation that has happened before, even on a federal level. It's been, just about everything has happened. Every situation has taken place at one time or another, not just on a federal level, but like on a state level. So there are procedures for how things like this work. But guess what? These guys are claiming that there's voter fraud and using this as their pretext or their basis for that belief.
So, but you notice what is the end of it said right there, Jason, about a special election will ensue. Mm-hmm. So it just shows you where things are really. David, how can that happen?
Because people right now vote on perceptions. They don't know the individuals. They know nearly no names. They know this party or that party, and they think everyone with that party is polarized with that party, and that's just not the case.
Or, bear with me, how about this one? Let me knock this one around the old noggin. Do you think it's a possibility that maybe they didn't know that he died? Did you consider that one? Is this even real? Is this even a real story? These people like to make stuff up like this all the time. So I'm not even convinced that this is a real story. But if it is, people may not know that he died. They may know a lot about his policy positions and stuff and may not be aware that he died. These guys, David Barton and Gene Bailey, the people we're listening to right now, they tend to almost worship their leaders like they're a cult leader or something. It's bizarre. Look at how they treat Donald Trump. It is something else, dude. Something else. And to not be aware of every intricacy of your leader's life down to the minute, how they eat their eggs and everything is weird to them and not really something that they fully understand. That would be my guess for why these people think it's ridiculous that people didn't realize he was dead or whatever. It's about policy a lot more with Democrats than it is with Republicans. Significantly more.
That's the problem progressives have, is they look at you as part of a group. God looks at you as individuals. That's the way the Constitution is set up. Every individual has rights. And our education system since the 1920s has been talking about groups.
Okay. Yeah, he claims to be a constitutional scholar. He's full of shit. He is not a constitutional scholar. He has no idea what he's talking about. He has a 4-year degree from Oral Roberts University, I think is what it is. Oral Roberts University. He's completely full of it. Has no idea what he's talking about. But you go out there and you claim to be a constitutional scholar and make stuff up like that 24/7, people eventually believe you. His degree from Oral Roberts isn't even in U.S. history or any of that stuff. His degree is in religious studies or something. I forget now. I looked it up not too long ago.
And so even in Nevada, one of the amendments they have, constitutional amendments we'll talk about later, but it's recognizing trans as a specific group in the Constitution. What are you going to do? Recognize left-handed, red-haired women as a group? Where do you stop?
Yeah.
And so this is the problem Americans have is
where do you stop? Wow. We want to recognize trans people in the we want to recognize trans people as a protected class so they can't be discriminated against. And he's getting upset with that right now because where does it stop, right? You're going to recognize people with blue eyes next? As if trans people are not discriminated against. That's really the idea that he's trying to give us right now. Trans people are not discriminated against in this guy's mind. That's why he thinks it would be perfectly fine for people to not add trans as a protected class. Like any trans people are out here getting discriminated against in the workplace or whatever. Hey, fine. Then why don't you let us add it? If it's not a problem, if trans people are not being discriminated against in the workplace, let us add it. Who cares? Why do you care if it doesn't affect your life in any way? He knows full well how trans people are treated in the U.S. In fact, he's one of the people who perpetuates those stereotypes and that hatred. But this is, once again, a line of his propaganda. Anything he can do to convince people that he's actually the victim, and the people who are really the victims aren't actually victims at all.
It's a progressive mentality where we think about groups, that's BLM or whatever else, it's groups. You got to think about individuals. And there's some really good Republicans and there's some really bad Republicans, and you need to know who they are. And that's what we've got to get back to as individuals.
Rhinos.
That's good. All right. Well, we all know what happened in Pennsylvania, probably the biggest shock.
Fetterman won over Oz, Mehmet Oz. Yeah, that was actually a really big win, but it wasn't a shock, really. Oz was not performing terribly well in the polls. It wasn't super unexpected that Fetterman won. It was just a big win for Democrats. Let me guess. They're going to say that they cheated, right?
Is Fetterman winning and taking Pennsylvania from Dr. Oz?
I'm surprised they didn't say Fetterman cheating and taking it from Oz. That's what I expect from them.
This happened. You just got to see it. Play it.
Fetterman as a nominee at some point for president. I know there's some variables, obviously, just a few. But I just, what he did in the super red, deep red parts of Pennsylvania, and the way that he ran ahead of Biden, as you were saying, ran ahead of Trump. I mean, it just makes you wonder about his future.
Makes you wonder about his future. Chad, you think he's going to run for president?
Ooh, that's interesting. Every time they get whiff of somebody who may be trying to get some kind of political ambition, they do everything they can to break him down. And let me tell you why. This is the Republican strategy right now. Demonize the person that is running on the Democratic ticket. Make your audience hate them with everything in their body. That way, it doesn't matter what candidate we run. If we can get people to hate the Democrat more than they hate the Republican, then we've succeeded. That's kind of their strategy right now. So they smear and lie and twist things around and propagandize about the potential Democratic nominees that they see as a potential threat, so that they don't have to worry about whether or not they're going to win the election. They just smear them with everything they've got. So let's listen to their smears of Fetterman now.
I think MSNBC's become the new Saturday Night Live skit. It's just, that's insanity, right?
It is.
It shows you how far out there that network's gotten. It's really crazy they would even say that in a
But way. She said it with a straight face.
She did.
Yeah, okay, so they're just trying to make it seem ridiculous. Fetterman is honestly not even that bad. Fetterman is fine, whatever. He's okay, I guess. He's got his ups and his downs, just like any candidate, but he's not worshipped by the left. He's just a potential option for president at some point in the future. But it's all about a cult of personality with these people, remember.
Sad.
Sad, but if it was
sad, as Trump would say, sad.
Wasn't so sad, it'd be funny.
You're right.
It's crazy where we're at. All right, so let's talk about what's happening. Pastor Jay, let's talk about California, your state. Of course, we all know the wonderful news of what you won, the lawsuit you won back during COVID. When looking back now, 2 days ago with California, how do you believe things went?
Well, in California, it's been, and just to be honest,
Who the hell is this guy? Senior pastor, Harvest Rock Church. Never heard of this guy before. Did he do some extreme shit and that's why they're getting him on now? That's my guess.
Discouraged by Proposition 1, gaining momentum.
Right. Now explain what Proposition 1 is.
Proposition 1 would be codifying abortion, late-term abortion, last day of the 9th month into our state constitution.
Oh, you must be joking. Proposition 1. Okay. First of all, nobody actually wants to have an abortion on the last day of pregnancy, 39 weeks and 6 days. Nobody wants that. That is not something that like Democrats are fighting for or have ever fought for. We've been trying to codify abortion protections in place. Let's see. Prop 1, California. Let's just look it up and see. I'm curious now. Ever heard of Christadelphians? I don't think so. That's what I was raised as until my family left the church when I was 9. No one else has ever heard of it when I mention it. Sounds like they have similar beliefs to Jehovah's Witnesses. Interesting. Never heard of that before. Christadelphians. Let's see here. The Christadelphians are a restorationist and millenarian Christian. Really? So Millerites, I think they spawned from the same group that created Jehovah's Witnesses, if I'm reading this correctly. 1843 was the Great Disappointment, and the Millerite movement split into pieces after that. Transformation of society, after which all things will be changed. Millenarianism. Yeah, I think this is... Yeah, it was named after John Miller. No, I'm sorry, William Miller. This article is about a belief in a coming major transformation of society as upheld by religious, social, or political groups for a specific type of Christian millenarianism. See millennialism. For teachings of William Miller. Oh, that's super interesting. Let's see, 1843, is that in here? Well, maybe it's a different thing, millenarianism. 19th century, Christadelphianism traces its origins to John Thomas, 1805 to 1871, who emigrated from England to North America in 1832. Following a near shipwreck, he vowed to find the truth about life and God through personal Bible study. Initially, he sought to avoid the kind of sectarianism he had seen in England. Wow, that's weird. Maybe it isn't connected to William Miller. Let's see, Miller. Yeah, maybe not. Maybe it's disconnected from that. But anyway, interesting. I have to take a look into that a little bit deeper. That's crazy. Thanks for the super chat. I appreciate it. Wait, what was I looking at? I'm trying to remember now. Oh, yeah, Prop 1. Adds the right to abortion and contraceptive use to the state constitution. That's all it is. Prop 1. Adds abortion protections to the state constitution. California Constitution guarantees everyone the right to privacy, does not define what this right includes. California Supreme Court's found this right to privacy includes the right to make reproductive choices, such as whether or not to have an abortion or use contraceptives. In addition, state law was later passed to expressly protect those rights. So Prop 1 was basically to put abortion rights, like write them directly into the state constitution. The California Constitution would be changed to expressly include existing rights to reproductive freedom, such as the right to choose whether or not to have an abortion and use contraceptives. Okay, so Prop 1 is not the right to have an abortion up to 39 weeks and 6 days. It is to have abortion rights, full stop. That's what it's all about. And these people are out here propagandizing and spreading, there it is, and spreading the idea that Democrats are out here trying to get abortions on the 39th week. This is a non-existent problem. This is something that, as far to my knowledge, has never happened in the history of ever. I don't think anybody has ever had an abortion at 39 weeks and 6 days. Willing to be proven wrong on that, but I've never heard of this before, unless there's some serious medical situation where somebody is about to die. That is the only situation in which I can imagine that happening.
And once that happens, it's just like codifying it in our U.S. Constitution. It's very hard to reverse. And so we have a supermajority of Democrats. It's like a communist nation, one party. And
A supermajority is like a communist nation. There's only one party in power ever. This guy lives in a delusional fantasy land if he thinks that California is like a communist nation at all.
And so 75% of Californians are Democrats or independents, and the independents, even the Republicans. For example, we have 40 state senators, but just 9 of them are Republicans, and half of them are rhinos, Republican in name only, because people just call.
Half of them are rhinos. That means non-Trump supporters in their mind. That means they don't agree with me, so I'm going to scream and cry about it like a child, like a snowflake, like a petty little snowflake that can't handle any pushback or anything like that.
Compromise, capitulate to what the society is dictating to them, that you have to be for same-sex marriage, you have to be pro-abortion. And so I'm not...
Dude, you don't have to be for that stuff. There's no, like, law in California that says if you're a Republican, you are mandated to be in favor of these things. You don't have to be. Just don't expect to win your election if you're not. This is the will of the people. This is called democracy. Do you not understand how this works? Are you kidding me?
I'm not surprised that people sign it. And to me, it's an indictment on the church.
It is.
We have failed. And I feel, again, just 2 Chronicles 7:14 comes to my mind. I think it's really interesting that we've been in a major drought since Newsom became governor. And we've had fires. We have just millions of dollars because of just poor management.
Wow, dude. This is like borderline anti-Semitic conspiracies right now. I think it's quite the coincidence that we've had a drought and fires since Gavin Newsom has become the governor. Isn't that odd? Really strange. Anybody think that maybe Gavin Newsom is secretly causing these fires and droughts? Who's to say? We'll never know.
By the governor. But I think it's beyond that. I think there's a curse on our state because...
There you go. It's a curse on our state because Gavin Newsom is demonic. He's basically a Satan worshiper. Like he's a member of the Church of Satan, a high priest in the Church of Satan, just like Hillary Clinton, right? Is that the whole bit right now?
There's something about, biblically speaking, about hands that shed innocent blood.
Right.
And Proverbs 6:16 says there's 6 things the Lord hates, which is a strong word. I tell my kids when they're growing up, don't use the word hate. Right. You know, just don't say, I hate broccoli. Just say you dislike it.
I dislike broccoli.
Yeah, right, okay.
Thank you very much.
But he says,
he
says 7, which is an abomination, which
that
is
would
a
be
strong
okra.
word.
I don't
and
like okra either.
One of them is hands that shed innocent blood.
Right.
And so we're seeing that, and he's not just pro-choice. He is pro-abortion.
Right.
He has put up, as you know.
I'm pro-abortion, personally. I understand that he's using that as a point of propaganda against people, but yeah, I think that abortion is actually a good thing. Then it should be more widespread than it is. And it's a shame that more people are not getting abortions. Instead, they are struggling with it, and they feel like a moral battle in their minds to not do it, and as a result, people are suffering terribly. I think that abortion should be a lot more widely available and a lot more common than it is, because it's no more than a clump of cells. There's no difference between scratching my nose and getting an abortion at a certain point. Now, eventually, that changes. Eventually, it's something that you should take a lot more seriously, and people's line changes depending on who you're talking to. My personal line is about 13 to 14 weeks when you should start taking it a lot more seriously. But I would fight for Roe v. Wade to be reinstated, which is 20 weeks. I think people should be able to do that.
Billboards in 7 red states saying, come
He's put
to
it up
California.
here. Put it up here in Texas.
And saying that it was legal here in California. But here's what Proposition 1 would do. It will pay for people's travel, their lodging, and their abortion. It is...
I don't know about that. I don't think it'll pay for their abortion. There are like laws in place that make it very difficult to get like state money or federal money for an abortion. Maybe. I mean, maybe on a state level it would work differently, but I have to imagine it would be pretty difficult to get that to work.
Is evil personified in politics.
So, David, what that means then, if they will pay for it, is that the taxpayer dollars are actually going to pay people?
Oh, you bet it will.
So you're paying for an abortion.
Your taxes are going.
Your taxes.
No, they're not. It's actually against the law on a federal level for taxes to go toward abortion right now. Now, in California, I don't know. Maybe I don't know California law very well, but not federally. That's just complete fabricated nonsense by the far-right extremists who are obsessed with making you believe that like they're the victim of everything and that the left is trying to sacrifice babies to Satan and they're like drinking adrenochrome and the whole 9 yards, like borderline QAnon stuff.
Are paying for that abortion.
Even if you're pro-life.
Let that sink in for a moment. And
I would let that sink in if it were real.
I used to live in Orange County and loved California, and there are a lot of great people, don't get me wrong.
Yes.
But this is huge. This is massive. Now, obviously not living in California, I don't know how much airplay Proposition 1 got, but I heard nothing about Prop 1. When they said Prop 1, I saw that today, and I'm like, what was that?
Well, part of it is just the culture, and we have 15 million evangelicals in California.
Doesn't the ballot explain what Prop 1 is? Like on the ballot itself when you go to vote for it? It appears as though it just enshrines the right to choose in the state constitution. But what's the big deal? It's pretty straightforward and simple.
More than any state except for Texas. And yet they're so woke, they're so passive, and really, it's really...
So woke, oh my God, it's woke, wokeism, it's infected everything.
The church in Laodicea, they're just lukewarm. Yeah. And Jesus said, I would rather have you hot, just love me with all your heart, or cold, at least you could get saved then.
Right.
But if you're lukewarm, it just makes me sick to my stomach. And it made me sick just to see how the turnout. And now I am optimistic. And by the way, just seeing the opening show really brought encouragement to me because, you know, it's true. I believe that we'll take the House. We knew that. But I was expecting a red wave, to be honest. And I didn't see that. But you know what? I was just thinking if we had that red wave, we would have just, again, sat back in our laurels.
Sure.
And just say, hey, you know, that's like 2020. And then get passive at the next 2022 election. And I just feel like God is saying, no, I'm disciplining you. I'm training you to be my bride without spot or wrinkle. And so.
God, this is creepy when they talk about being Jesus's bride. Like, why? I don't understand. They talk about this a lot. In fact, I covered this just the other day. Kat Kerr, a supposed prophet of God, claims that in heaven, everybody will be married to Jesus as his bride, and they will even consummate their relationship. Seriously, that's what she said.
So that we will be engaged until Jesus Christ comes back. Yeah. We have to occupy, do business until he returns. And so
this is Christian nationalism. We have to occupy until Jesus comes back, i.e., we need to take control of the political system in the United States. Oh my God, dude, I'm dying here. And turn it into a Christian nationalist state. That's the whole idea they're laying out for us right now. Give me a second here, just checking something. Okay. Just got a message. The Hyde Amendment makes it so public funding cannot go toward abortion federally. States can make regulations that require their Medicaid programs to cover abortion care. So, I mean, states, that means basically states can choose to allow their public health care to cover it. Some circuits have held that providing coverage for pregnancy and childbirth, but not abortion, is a violation of equal protection and substantive due process, like State v. Planned Parenthood of Alaska and women and so on and so forth. So anyway, there's a little information on it. The Hyde Amendment prevents this from being a problem, what they're describing here. And what happened to states' rights? Remember all that garbage about states' rights to own slaves and all that other stuff that they talk about constantly? What happened? I thought they were in favor of states' rights, weren't they? Suddenly they're against states' rights. Weird how that flips suddenly and inexplicably. They were never for states' rights, guys. They were never in favor of states' rights. They were in favor of control. They were in favor of pushing through policies that they wanted and coming up with BS propaganda that they could use against gullible suckers. That's what it's always been about.
I'm glad in many ways because it's a wake-up call. And the first thing that came out of my mouth was quoting John Paul Jackson, I've just begun to fight.
Yeah.
Who the holy frick is John Paul Jackson? John Paul Jackson. I never heard that person before.
I'm rolling up my sleeves as a pastor in California, and I just putting my hand to the plow, not looking back.
Gene, let me ask something.
Yep.
I'm putting my hand to your mom. Nerico, thank you so much for becoming a member and onward. Absolutely.
Real quick, because what Shay said about the church has not been a voice on this. What we saw on election night, there were 5 states that had abortion initiatives: California, Michigan, Prop 3. We had 5 of the states: Vermont, California, Michigan, Kentucky, and Montana. All 5 went pro-abortion, including.
Hey, that's states' rights, baby. You remember states' rights? That thing that you screech about constantly? That's what it's all about.
Including 2 pro-life states that usually would not do that. What we saw on that night was the Democrats put $410 million into abortion itself. Now, abortion in the national polling was not showing as a big issue. Number 1 in polling was what was happening with the economy. Number 2 is crime. And yet, when you look at the exit polls out of Pennsylvania, the number 1 issue of all voters, 36% was abortion. And then it dropped to 11% for the economy and 10% for crime.
Wow.
And so they drove abortion way up here, and our guys weren't here. And what I've been really struck with from Abby Johnson, other abortion folks that are now Christians and on the other side is, I went to church for years. I was this kind of a Christian, Baptist, Methodist, and my pastor never told me abortion's wrong.
Oh boy, guys, just got some interesting news. Sounds like Trump just announced he's running for president again, like 2 seconds ago. So let me see if I can find something on that. I'll tell you what, with this, we're going to continue this tomorrow morning on my Telltale Unfiltered channel, link in the description, 11 a.m. Eastern. Be there or be square. You do not want to be square. Nobody wants that. It's horrific. So let's see if I can pull up Trump announcing. Give me a second here. Trump set to announce 2024 presidency. Hang on. Let's see here.
But just as I promised in...
Okay. We're just going to watch a minute or 2 of this, see what he has to say for himself, okay? Actually, I'm going to change the title of this video here. Trump announces he's running for president. Awesome. All right, let's keep listening to this. Oh my God, please don't play this stupid music and hit me with a copyright thing.
Movement.
Here we go. Okay, good. Here we go.
Thank you very much, Melania, myself, and our entire family. I want to thank you all for being here tonight. It's a very special occasion at a very special place. You and all of those watching are the heart and soul of this incredible movement and the greatest country in the history of the world. It's very simple.
It's very simple.
There's never been anything like it. This great movement of ours, never been anything like it, and perhaps there will never be anything like it again. There's never been anything to compete with what we have all done.
Subtle shout out to Ron DeSantis that you'll never succeed. You'll never do what I did.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, and my fellow citizens, America's comeback starts right now. Two years ago, when I left office, the United States stood ready for its golden age. Our nation was at the pinnacle of power, prosperity, and prestige.
2 years ago? No, it wasn't at all.
Towering above all rivals, vanquishing all enemies, and striding into the future, confident and so strong. In 4 short years, everybody was doing great. Men, women, African Americans.
No, to all of that. Absolutely not. Does he forget the pandemic that took place?
Asian Americans, Hispanic Americans.
No, Asian Americans are doing terribly. Do you have any idea what the amount of hate crime he inspired in New York City alone? Because he kept calling it the China virus and making fun of Chinese people and China in general. He was the root of domestic terrorism, stochastic terrorism on Asian people. This is just him rewriting history entirely.
Americans, everybody was thriving like never before.
No.
There was never a time like this. We turned the page on decades of globalist sellouts and one-sided trade deals, lifted millions out of poverty, and together we built the greatest economy.
Wait, is that something he was going for, lifting people out of poverty? I didn't know that was something he was even trying to do. Well, he failed miserably.
In the history of the world, when the virus hit our shores, I took decisive action and saved lives and the U.S. economy. And by October of...
No, I'm not going to let him get away with that one either. He did not. He stalled and lied about it and said we'd be open by Easter and didn't do anything and was borderline about to fire Fauci and instead tried to replace him with Dr. Birx, who would parrot everything that he said. He was terrible on COVID. If he'd been better, he may have gotten reelected.
The same year, America was roaring back with the #1 fastest economic recovery ever recorded. How about that?
Okay, I don't know if that's true, so I'm going to err on the side of that's made up because I don't trust a word out of his mouth.
All of the incoming administration and all they had to do was just sit back and watch. Inflation was non-existent. Our southern border was by far the strongest ever.
You don't want non-existent inflation. That would be deflation. I mean, you don't ever get exactly on the button. And even if you did, you don't want that. You want a little bit of inflation. You want the economy to improve and go up a little bit. That would be the goal. So I would hope that there was not non-existent inflation. And there was no border wall either, FYI.
And because the border was so tight, drugs were coming into our country at the lowest level in many, many years.
Trust me, drugs were coming in at the exact same level they always were. You just weren't catching them. It's a testament to the fact that Biden's border is stronger than Trump's, that more fentanyl is being caught. Every time you see a news article saying fentanyl has been caught on the border, it means the border guards are doing their jobs correctly.
Importantly, after decades of rising energy costs, the United States had finally attained the impossible dream of American energy independence, which soon would have turned into energy dominance.
Okay, America produces as much oil as we use. We have for a very, very long time, and we still do currently. So, I mean, we still sell oil and buy oil, from various places. I'm just not sure what he's talking about here. It's all propaganda to make himself look better when he's absolutely terrible.
For the first time in memory, China was reeling and back on its heels. You've never seen that before, because the United States was outdoing them on every single front, and China was paying billions and billions of dollars in taxes and tariffs.
No, Americans pay tariffs. China doesn't pay tariff. You put a tariff on China, and Americans have to pay that. That means when you import goods from China, you have to pay a tax. The Chinese people who are selling things to us are not paying that. Does he really not know how tariffs work, honestly? Does he really not know?
The farmers know that because they got 28 billion of it.
He screwed farmers over terribly, like really, really badly, and that's why he lost a bunch of votes from him.
No president had ever sought or received $1 for our country from China until I came along, and we were getting hundreds of billions of dollars. Many people think that because of this, China played a very active role in the 2020 election. Just saying.
I.e., I didn't lose. China manipulated the numbers. Well, which is it? Did China manipulate the numbers, or was there election fraud? He's pulling the same thing. He's trying to use China as a scapegoat and blaming them for his loss, when in reality, he just sucked, dude. He just sucked. Plain and simple. He was terrible. He's awful in every way.
Sure, that didn't happen. Instead of jobs and factories leaving America for China, they were, for the first time ever, leaving China for America.
He's doing China. He's saying that. It's so cringy, dude.
Businesses were pouring back because of our historic tax and regulation cuts, the biggest in both categories in history, bigger even than what Ronald Reagan was able to produce, and he produced a lot.
Ooh, boy, he's calling himself better than Ronald Reagan. That's a tough sell to a Republican crowd, but to the MAGA crowd, I think they buy it.
China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea were in check and respected. They respected the United States, and
no, they didn't at all.
Quite honestly, they respected me. I knew them well. The vicious ISIS caliphate, which no president was able to conquer, was decimated by me and our great warriors in less than 3 weeks. And al-Baghdadi,
Oh, I love how he pronounces his name. Usually he calls him Abu Baker. Abu Baker was his name. That is an absolutely metal name, if I do say so myself. But yeah, Trump did take credit for taking out Abu Baker al-Baghdadi, the self-proclaimed leader of ISIS, basically, as if he was a member of SEAL Team 6 himself or something. Like, come on, get over yourself, Trump. Yeah, you were president when this all went down. That does not mean that you're like, I don't know, that you were like in the military mission that like led the raid or whatever. But, you know, a lot of Trump MAGA people talk about him as though he was in the military. And there are like a billion drawings of Donald Trump like wearing firefighter suits or, you know, any of that, any number of other nonsense.
Its founder was hunted down and killed. North Korea had not launched a single long-range missile since my summit with Chairman Kim Jong-un nearly 3 years before. We developed a relationship, and that's
sounds hot.
A good thing, not a bad thing. It's a good thing. Very good thing, actually.
Sounding hotter by the second.
Look at what's happening today. My opponents made me out to be a warmonger and just...
No, they didn't. Did his opponents make him out to be a warmonger? I don't think anybody thought he was a warmonger. I mean, he most definitely should have like pulled out of Afghanistan. There were a billion things Trump could have done better on war, but yeah, I guess he killed Soleimani in Iran, right? That didn't help the situation at all.
A terrible person who would immediately go into war.
Well, terrible person, yes, and maybe go into war. I could see that for sure.
They said during the 2016 campaign that if he becomes president, there will never be a war within weeks, and we will have wars like you've never seen before. It will happen immediately, and yet I've gone decades without a war, the first president to do it for that.
Okay, Trump went decades without a war? Is that what he just said?
That long a period.
Trump just said he's gone decades without a war. He was only president for 4 years. You gotta be kidding me.
The world was at peace.
No, it was not. It was not at peace. There were wars that were going on Trump's watch. He claimed that he wanted to pull out of Afghanistan, but he didn't. He never did he? He left that up to Biden. Thanks for nothing.
America was prospering, and our country was on track for an amazing future because I made big promises to the American people, and unlike other presidents, I kept my promises. I kept them.
No, he didn't. He kept none of his promises, basically. Let's get to it, Donald. Oh, you see what he's doing here? He took a sip of water with a single hand intentionally to show that he's still capable. Because there was that scandal forever ago about him drinking with two hands or whatever. He wanted to make himself out to be a strongman. This is all the strongman propagandistic nonsense that he does. He's all about aesthetics. A lot of fascists are.
Thank you very much. Under our leadership, we were a great and glorious nation, something you haven't heard for quite a long period of time.
Okay, well, in his book, didn't it just happen like 2 years ago? It hasn't been that long in his mind.
We were a strong nation, and importantly, we were a free nation. But now we are a nation in decline. We are a failing nation. For millions of Americans, the past 2 years under Joe Biden have been a time of pain, hardship, anxiety, and despair. As we speak, inflation is the highest in over 50 years. Gas prices have reached the highest levels in history.
It's like he's obsessed with gas prices. This is an issue that Trumpists propagandized about leading up to the midterms, not even realizing that. Well, maybe they did realize this, but the president doesn't control gas prices at all. There's not like a gigantic dial in the White House that says gas prices that you can turn. Biden can control it by giving a gas tax holiday or releasing some oil from the reserves, the national reserves. Those are his two methods, the two ways he can control it, and that's it. And that'll only drop it by 20, 30 cents per gallon, and only for a short period of time.
And expect them to go much higher now that the strategic national reserves, which I filled up, have been virtually drained in order to keep gasoline prices lower just prior to the election. Joe Biden has intentionally surrendered our energy independence.
Once again, he says, I filled up. There is I think like an automatic purchase thing that happens anytime gas prices or oil prices fall below a certain level. The U.S. government automatically purchases a bunch of oil to fill up the strategic reserves. So, yeah, of course he did. In fact, Trump may not have even had to have done anything. That may have just been an automatic process. I'm not even sure.
There is no longer even a thought of dominance, and we are now begging for energy help from foreign nations, many of whom find us detestable. Our southern border has been erased, and our country is...
No, it hasn't. It's fundamentally, almost nothing has changed on the border, except for some families have been united.
Being invaded by millions and millions of unknown people, many of whom are entering for a very bad and sinister reason. And you know what that reason is.
Tell me, what is it?
We will be paying a big price for this invasion into our country for years to come. Hundreds of thousands of pounds of deadly drugs, including very lethal fentanyl, are flooding across the now open and totally porous southern border.
It is not now open and or totally porous. It's just as open as it was when Donald Trump was president, first of all. And second, how do you know that there's a lot of fentanyl flowing across the border? You know how he knows? Because we've caught it. We've stopped it from coming across. Which means it's not coming into the U.S. I mean, certainly some succeeds in coming across the U.S. But actually, isn't it from Canada? Maybe it is from Mexico. I'm not sure. I probably shouldn't be talking about it if I'm unaware. But yeah, let's keep listening.
The blood-soaked streets of our once great cities are cesspools of violent crimes.
They are not. I live in New York City. This place is the safest place I have ever lived in my life. There is nothing dangerous about this city. I mean, there are some areas that I generally don't go to because some of it can be a little bit dangerous. But by and large, this is the safest city I've ever lived in.
Which are being watched all over the world as leadership of other countries explain that this is what America and democracy is really all about. How sad. The United States has been embarrassed, humiliated, and weakened for all to see.
Well, why didn't he fix it? He said he's going to make it great, didn't he? What happened?
The disasters in Afghanistan, perhaps the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, where we lost lives, left Americans behind, and surrendered $85 billion worth of the finest military equipment anywhere in the world.
More propaganda. This is how wars work. You leave some equipment over there because it's more expensive to ship back, but you destroy it before you bring it back. Or you sell it to like a local country who's looking for these arms or whatever else. I don't even know that it's $85 billion worth. Probably not. But anyway, it's just propaganda. It's all propaganda, as always.
And Ukraine, which would have never happened if I were your president, are something.
I bet. Totally. This is a pro-Russia crowd, keep in mind.
And even the Democrats admit that. That's something I've seen them admit over and over again.
Who? Tell me who. Who exactly?
But our enemies are speaking of us with scorn and laughter and derision.
No fucking shit. Really? You're trying to tell me our enemies speak badly about us? How about that shit? This is the first time hearing of it. Wow. Did not realize that. Enemies don't like us. This is news to me. Did you know that? Trump is enlightening people right now.
Because of those two events. But there are many more. Even just today, a missile was sent in, probably by Russia.
Into Poland.
To Poland.
Yeah, I heard about that. 2 people got injured from my understanding. I don't know. It may have been updated by now or whatever other thing. But yeah, not good. Not good. That had nothing to do with the president of the United States and could not be stopped or mitigated or whatever. Wouldn't have mattered if Trump was in the office or not.
50 miles into Poland, and people are going absolutely wild and crazy, and they're not happy. They are very, very angry. Now we have a president who falls asleep at global conferences.
What is he talking about?
Was held in contempt by the British Parliament over Afghanistan.
What? What is he talking about? I don't understand. This dude does nothing but lie, doesn't he?
Thanks to the words of wisdom, he said thank you to the wrong country for inviting him to a major summit on the environment of all things.
What is he talking about? Is this all made up? I don't know.
They fly for days to get there, and then he calls the country.
They fly for days? Do you have any idea how big the Earth is? Can't you fly around the Earth now in like a 24-hour period, I would have to imagine, or at least to the other side of the Earth, right?
That was actually a country on another continent. and he's leading us to the brink of nuclear war, a concept unimaginable just 2 short years ago.
Definitely not unimaginable 2 short years ago. This is something that they literally had drills in the 80s. And yeah, the 80s, I would say. Trying to prevent nuclear holocaust, trying to teach kids how to deal with it. Duck and cover. There was this whole thing about it. It was most definitely not unimaginable just 2 short years ago. It's just completely full of shit.
You cannot mention the nuclear word. It's too devastating.
Oh, God. He's been saying don't talk about the N-word, which is the nuclear word lately. I expected that one. I guess he didn't want anybody to say the actual N-word in the crowd right now.
The Green New Deal and the environment, which they say may affect us in 300 years, is all that is talked about. And yet nuclear weapons, which would destroy the world immediately, are never even discussed as a major threat. Can you?
Are you kidding me? Nuclear weapons are never discussed as a major threat? You've got to be joking, right? You must be joking. First of all. And second, climate change is here. Now. Not in 300 years. Now. It's happening right now. So I don't know what he's talking about.
Imagine. They say the ocean will rise 1/8 of an inch over the next...
Your mom will rise 1/8 of an inch.
200 to 300 years.
That is not what they say, actually. Scientists have pretty solid projections for this, and we're on a really bad path right now.
But don't worry about nuclear weapons that can take out entire countries with one shot.
Nobody is saying this.
Something is wrong with their thinking. Under Biden and the radical Democrats, America has been mocked, derided, and brought to its knees, perhaps like never before. But we are here tonight to declare that it does not have to be this way.
Here we go.
It does not have to be this way.
Here it is. We ready?
2 years ago, we were a great nation, and soon we will be a great nation again. The decline of America is being forced upon us by Biden and the radical left lunatics running our government right into the ground. This decline is not a fate we must accept. When given the choice, boldly, clearly, and directly, I believe the American people will overwhelmingly reject the left's platform of national ruin, and they will embrace our platform of national greatness and glory to America.
Trump cannot win a general election. We've discovered this now, especially with this last midterm. Trump can't win a general election. So here are my thoughts. There is nothing better for the Democrats than for Trump to win. Nothing better. He cannot win. And he's going to tear the country apart, or tear the Republican Party apart, more specifically, in the process. If he runs, he will lose, I believe. If he runs and loses the primary against Ron DeSantis, then Republicans will lose again, because Trump is going to split the party. He's going to create his own party, and the Republicans will never win another election, basically. That's what I expect to actually happen. God, I hope this guy doesn't kick it before 2024.
Glory. Exactly 1 week ago, our citizens voted in the important midterm elections, and despite a ridiculously long and unnecessary period of waiting, far longer, in fact, than any third world country.
That's your fault, actually. All of that bullshit that this guy spread about election interference or election rigging or whatever else led to like 1 billion laws being passed and this national hype, this fear that the election was being stolen, which made it that much harder to actually run an election and count votes and all that other stuff. This is entirely Trump's doing, and he knows that.
Just a short time ago, the Republicans won back control of the House of Representatives. And it was with a great Trump-endorsed candidate, Congressman-elect Kevin Kiley, who is a fantastic person.
Who? I've never heard of this person.
A fantastic person. And I'm very happy it was his vote that did it. But we now won back. This happened just an hour ago.
Well, I have no idea what he's talking about. Congress was won by who?
Much criticism is being placed on the fact that the Republican Party should have done better, and frankly, much of this blame is correct. But the citizens of our country have not yet realized the full extent and gravity of the pain our nation is going through, and the total effect of the suffering is just starting to take hold. They don't quite feel it yet, but they will very soon. I have no doubt that by 2024, it will sadly be much worse, and they will see much more clearly what happened and what is happening to our country, and the voting will be much different. 2024.
So what is he saying here? Is he saying that, like, Republicans are going to never lose again or never win again because Democrats have rigged the vote so much or something? I don't know.
Are you getting ready?
See, there he goes again. He's intentionally drinking it with a single hand and almost struggling. Look, just let me step back and watch again.
Are you getting ready?
Watch. You see? You see? He could barely do it.
And I am too.
He is intentionally doing it with a single hand because he was criticized for it a little while back.
I am too. I do want to point out that in the midterms, my endorsement success rate was 232 wins and only 22 losses. You don't hear that.
Look, my endorsement rate was 100% because I perfectly guessed everybody that was going to get into office. That must mean that, not that I have clairvoyance, but that everybody loves me, right? Everybody loves me. I'm the reason why everybody won these elections. Does that check out to anybody else? That's the logic Trump is using right now. A lot of the people he endorsed had a high chance of winning the election anyways. It was not because of his endorsement that they won. But he's going to take credit, of course.
From the media.
Every election, or many election deniers and Trump endorsees or open Trump supporters specifically lost. It was a very bad night for Donald Trump.
This is an elegant night and an elegant place, and I'm not going to use the term fake news media.
No? Okay.
So we're going to keep it very elegant. But you don't hear that from the media, but I think you will because people are starting to see what happened. That's some score, and in the primaries was 98.6%.
Okay, 98.6%. Did he just take his temperature before going on stage? Is that why that number popped into his head?
But they were still trying to blame me. And the reason for the success and that unprecedented success rate is that the Trump administration changed our nation on trade, on securing the border. We're the strongest, safest border ever in the history of our country. On Islamic terrorism.
No.
We had practically, just about, not that I can think of, no Islamic attacks, terrorist attacks during the Trump administration.
In America, no.
And in fact, we got along very well with the various countries.
Oh my God.
Including coming up with the Abraham Accords. That's a great thing, the Abraham Accords.
This guy.
But it's because of cutting taxes and cutting regulations at the highest level ever, and on building the greatest economy any time in the...
What's the highest level ever? Cutting taxes at the highest level ever. Is that at the federal level? Is that the highest level ever that he's referring to?
History of the world, there's never been an economy like we had just 2 years ago, despite the outcome in the Senate.
Okay, never been an economy like we had just 2 years ago, except for now. Did you forget about that one? The economy is actually better now than it was 2 years ago by like a mile. So, yeah, never had a better economy except for this one.
Senate, we cannot lose hope, and we must all work very hard for a gentleman and a great person named Herschel Walker, a fabulous human being who loves our country and will be a great United States Senator. Herschel Walker, get out and vote for Herschel, and he deserves it.
God, I thought he was going to say, Herschel Walker, get out here. But no, he's not there. He won't have his spotlight stolen by anybody on the night that he's announcing the election.
He was an incredible athlete. He'll be an even...
I'm sorry. On the night he's announcing his run for president.
better senator. Get out and vote for Herschel Walker. We elected a group of incredibly talented America First leaders who will be stars of our party for many years to come. In the popular vote, another thing that's not discussed for the House, we must remember that Republicans won 5 million more votes, the largest margin in many, many years, over the Democrats. 5 million more votes. That's a big thing.
What? What is he talking about? I haven't seen these figures. There were 5 million more Republican voters than Democrat voters? I don't know about that.
Breaking the radical Democrats' grip on Congress was crucial. So in other
Breaking your mom's radical grip on me has been crucial, too.
words, because of our great congressmen and all of our great congressmen and congresswomen, we have taken over Congress. Nancy Pelosi.
Our great Congress guys, our great Congress gals, and our great Congress non-binary pals
has been fired. Isn't that nice?
Nancy Pelosi has not been fired. First of all, she's still a representative. Second, she hasn't even been voted out as Speaker of the House yet, so we'll see.
I told them, I said, if you just keep a little bit lower standard, you're going to have a big victory. They said, let's win by 40 seats. Let's win by 50. I said,
Yeah, that would be what was expected. Yes, absolutely. The average the average number of House seats lost in this type of political climate and situation is 28 House seats lost on average, and 4 Senate seats lost on average in this type of situation. Democrats lost maybe 4 House seats? Maybe? I'm not even sure how many yet. And actually gained a Senate seat. Maybe gained a Senate seat. So, yeah, this is bad. This is real bad for Republicans.
if you win by 2 seats, be happy. But she's on her way to another country right now. She's been fired.
No.
But we always have known that this was not the end. It was only the beginning of our fight to rescue the American dream. And it's a word you don't use. 2 words. I don't want to be Joe. It's 2 words, American dream.
Okay. The American dream is American propaganda. It's not even real. It's never been real. There are countries that can deliver the American dream, quote unquote, way, way better than America. To think America is good at delivering the American dream is just delusion.
That was not good what he did. There are a lot of bad things, like going to Idaho and saying, welcome to the state of Florida. I really love it.
I have no idea what he's talking about right now. They are deeply invested in making Joe Biden out to have dementia when I don't believe that he does at all. And I don't think Trump has dementia either, to be fair. I think that they're both showing their age and cognitively slowing down a little bit, but are both perfectly capable of whatever. Trump is not cognitively capable of being president for other reasons because he has no idea what's going on and doesn't put any effort into understanding things. But that's unrelated to his cognitive abilities. I think he's got the cognitive... I don't think he has dementia, put it that way. Biden
in order to make America great and glorious again, I am tonight announcing my candidacy for President of the United States.
There it is. I love it. Woo!
Thank you, Chris. Thank you.
I love it. This is actually a good thing for Democrats. Very good thing for Democrats. I'm sorry, I've gone over. Is that okay? Okay. It's a very good thing for Democrats because they are guaranteed to. This is guaranteed to cause a rift in the Republican Party either way. Trump said he was going to start a brand new political party. The Patriot Party is what he was going to call it. If the Republicans refuse to allow him in or refuse to allow him to like be their chosen nominee or whatever other thing. And there was a deal made behind the scenes with McConnell and others that they would continue to support him as long as he didn't create a new political party. They have fully turned on Trump now, completely. The fact that they have turned on him and that he has just announced that he's going to run for president is a big fucking deal. Actually, it's a big deal.
So many incredible friends and family here tonight. It's such a beautiful thing. Some people say, how do you speak before so many people all the time? When there's love in the room, it's really easy, if you want to know the truth. It really is. You ought to try it sometime.
I try it all the time, although not in an actual. I've done it in actual rooms, but yeah, I'm talking to 800 people right now. So
together, we will be taking on the most corrupt forces and entrenched interests imaginable.
I bet. Why didn't he take those entrenched interests and corrupt forces before? What happened? He's the most powerful man, arguably, in the world, and somehow, you know, those entrenched forces and corrupt politicians and everybody are still in power. Weird, right?
Our country is in a horrible state. We're in grave trouble. This is not a task for a politician or a conventional candidate. This is a task for a great movement that embodies the courage, confidence, and the spirit of the American people. This is a movement. This is not for any one individual. This is a job for tens of millions of proud people working together from all across the land and from all walks of life, young and old, black and white, Hispanic and Asian, many of whom we have brought together for the very, very first time. If you look at the numbers, if you look at what's happened with Hispanic, with African American,
Look at what's happened with Hispanic, with African American. I know. Look at African American, right? Such a thing happening right now with African American.
Asian, and just look at what's happening. This is a party that has become much bigger, much stronger, much more powerful, can do much more good for our country. This is a job for grandmothers and construction workers, firefighters, builders, teachers, doctors, and farmers who cannot stay quiet any longer. You can't stay quiet any longer. You're angry about what's happening to our country. Our country is being destroyed before your very eyes. It's a job for every aspiring young person and every hard-working parent, for every entrepreneur and underappreciated police officer who is ready to shout for safety in America. The police are being treated so badly. These are great people. They can straighten out the crime. They're the ones that know how to do it. We have to give them back their respect and their
Police are the ones that know how to straighten out crime. Okay.
dignity.
I would have gone with criminal psychologists or sociologists, but okay. People who carry guns, I guess, is one option too.
This will not be my campaign. This will be our campaign all together. Because the only force strong enough to defeat the massive corruption we are up against is you, the American people. It's true. The American people, the greatest people on earth. We love them all. And we love both sides. We're going to bring people together.
Yeah, Trump is going to bring people together. Absolutely. Why does he even bother saying this? He knows that he doesn't want to bring people together.
To unify people. And it was happening in the previous administration,
No, it wasn't at all.
previous to the previous.
No, he was all about owning the libs. That was like his whole goal. He was a culture warrior to the core. He wanted to hurt other people, hurt his enemies. He set out to hurt his enemies. This is not true in any way. Who does he think he's fooling?
And what was bringing him together was success. Prior to COVID coming in, the people were calling me, were calling me. You wouldn't believe it. People that were so far left, I figured they'd never speak to me and I would never speak to them. But our success was so incredible, like never before. And then COVID started coming in from China. We call it the China virus. Some people call it other things. But it was devastating, and we built it back and did an incredible job. But when people say Republicans or Democrats or liberals or conservatives, I say we can all get together. And we were doing that. That was happening just
No, it wasn't.
prior, because the success was greater than this country has ever had. We were leapfrogging China and leapfrogging everybody else, and
No, we weren't.
everybody wanted a piece of it. But just as I promised in 2016, I am your voice. I am your voice. The Washington establishment wants to silence us, but we will
If he's my voice, then I want some antipsychotic medicine.
not let them do that. What we have built together over the past 6 years is the greatest movement in history, because it is not about politics. It's about our love for this great country, America, and we're not going to let it fail. I am running because I believe the world has not yet seen the true glory of what this nation can be. We have not reached that pinnacle, believe it or not.
Ultranationalism.
In fact, we can go very far. We're going to have to go far. First, we have to get out of this ditch. And once we're out, you'll see things that nobody imagined for any country.
This is what he said in 2016. I thought, you had 4 years, man. What happened? Why are we not out of this ditch already?
It's called the United States of America, and it's an incredible place.
Never heard of it. This is the first time hearing. Tell me more.
We are Americans, and we do not have to endure what has taken place in Washington, D.C. This is our country, our government, and the corridors of power, they're our corridors. They're not their corridors. These are our corridors.
He's fooling moderate centrists. That's fair enough. I don't think he is, actually, but that's who he's shooting for. You're right. You're absolutely right. That's who he's trying to get to right now.
And we are coming to take those corridors back.
Is he saying quarters? What is he talking about right now? Quarters?
So from now until Election Day in 2024, which will come very quickly, we'll go, look at how time flies. Look how fast it's all going. I will fight like no one has ever fought before.
Okay, and I can't wait to see it. This is going to be deeply entertaining to me. Just going to be great.
We will defeat the radical left Democrats that are trying to destroy our country from within, and likewise protect us all. We want to protect us. We have to be protected from all of those nations out there that are looking to destroy us from beyond our shores. There are lots of nations that hate us gravely. And that's the problem. When they look at us in disarray like we are right now, when we go to them begging for oil and we have more liquid gold under our feet than they have or any other nation has, and we don't use it.
Yeah, that's true. There's a lot of oil in the United States, but we are using it, actually. As far as I know, we are actually... we're pumping as much oil out of the ground as we are using. We're producing as much as we're using, to my knowledge. That may have changed since I looked last. I don't know, but...
Because we're going to them, it's crazy what's happening. We can't let it continue. Joe Biden is the face of left-wing failure and Washington corruption. He had a big G20 dinner tonight. Everybody flew over to wherever they flew over, and guess what?
Oh, and Trump is probably seething because that wasn't him in that seat.
But he never showed up. They're still looking for him. What's going on? G20, I used to love that. The leaders, I
Told you, that's what's on his mind.
used to make deals for our country like you wouldn't believe. It was one, give me the next one, give me the next one. And we got them to stop taking advantage of our country. Every nation took advantage of our country. We renegotiated deals with Mexico and Canada, USMCA. We got rid of the worst trade deal ever made.
All right, well, I'll tell you what, guys. That's what I'm going to have to call it for now. I appreciate you guys coming and hanging out with me. It's been a lot of fun. It's too bad because numbers are ticking up, too. I was actually expecting a lot more because I have a video that's absolutely popping off right now. In the past hour, I have gotten 22,000 views on my main channel. That's crazy. So anyway, all right, guys, I'm going to get out of here. Appreciate you coming. If you want to see more stuff like this, and if you want to see more of maybe even this, and more of the Flashpoint video that we were watching earlier, come to my Telltale Unfiltered channel tomorrow morning, Tuesdays and Wednesdays, 11 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. on my Unfiltered channel, link in the description. I'll be sitting here doing this exact thing, playing a game, watching Trump make a fool of himself, the usual, okay? Oh, wait. Never call Owen. If Trump's mouth is moving, he's lying. He have an offering to the feline overlords. Appreciate that so much. Thank you, Nericall. That's awesome. And also, Laszlo's son, thank you so much for the super sticker. Anyway, all right, guys, I'm going to get out of here. I will talk to you guys hopefully tomorrow morning. If not, I'll talk to you guys next week, okay? All right, have a good night, everybody.